and welcome to Home with the Hudsons. Today I will be walking you through our kitchen renovation, where we bring our kitchen from nothing, just a brand new walls and subfloor, to a fully functioning kitchen with cabinets and a sink and everything that we had been living without for months. So here is the before. We realized soon after buying this house that the kitchen had to be completely gutted and rebuilt. So we start with just a new subfloor, new plumbing, electrical, and new walls. Very bare, but we had an oven and a refrigerator to keep us going, and just used our kitchen table for food prep and wash our dishes in the bathroom sink for a good while. So, needless to say, after living like that for a while, we were pretty excited to have a functioning kitchen. Thankfully, my in-laws were able to come up and help us, and the first thing we had to do was extend this wall here because in a miscommunication with rebuilding the kitchen, it was shortened too much for the dimensions we needed. So we added 2x4s and drywall and putty and everything you need to float the drywall, and extended this wall. And once the wall was complete, we could get to work on the cabinets themselves. We acquired from Facebook Marketplace some very nice pine used cabinets. These were custom cabinets made for their kitchen, which is a different size and shape than our kitchen. So we had to reconfigure and essentially re-customize these cabinets to fit our kitchen. We did that with a lot of measuring and cutting and putting pieces back together to make the cabinets fit where we needed them to in our kitchen. For the tools, depending on what cut we needed to make, we used a circular saw or a miter saw to cut the pieces to the right lengths, and then used a nail gun to put the pieces back together. Now, we had a lot of these tools already. A lot of them were left by the previous owners, or we had acquired for other projects. So we had most of the tools we needed to complete this project of making these cabinets. Some of the pieces fit really well in our space and didn't require any cutting, and some needed to be reworked a lot. And it also worked out that the kitchen we got these cabinets from was bigger than ours, so we had a lot of extra wood to work with to make extra pieces to finish the space, such as these little shelves you see on the sides of some of the cabinets to make it a fuller cabinet that would take up all of the space it needed to. And then we got to work on installing the cabinets, starting with this little one here. We installed them by drilling nails into the studs in the ceiling and walls, using both a regular drill and an impact drill, although the impact is preferred because it makes drilling into studs easier. And here's some of the finished product of drilling in these cabinets. We started with the lower cabinets beneath this small skinny cabinet. Those L-shaped cabinets fit perfectly where we needed them to, so we could basically line up everything else from there. We lined up the edge of this upper cabinet with the edge of the lower cabinet and drilled it into place. From there, we could put the oven into place and to figure out the dimensions we needed for these cabinets on the other side of the oven. These needed to be cut down a lot, both this smaller lower cabinet and smaller upper cabinet where we added the shelves. But after they were cut to the right dimensions, we were able to put them in place as well by drilling them into the stud. Here are the cabinets on the other side of the kitchen, the L-shaped cabinets on the bottom, and that same skinny upper cabinet with another cabinet on the other side of the window. We measured it so that the space between the window and the cabinet would be the same on either side to make that symmetrical, and added more little shelves on that corner upper cabinet to fill in that empty space. We essentially transformed a U-shaped kitchen into a straight line, so it definitely took some working and reworking and measuring and remeasuring, but it all worked out pretty well in the end. Now for the countertops, we just got simple laminate Formica countertops. One, because they are the most affordable, and two, because we needed to be able to cut into it easily for my antique sink, which I'll show you more about that later. These corner pieces for the countertops only come in certain lengths, and we ended up having to get the longest one and cut it down to size. To do that, we used a very fine tooth blade, 60 teeth, and put painter's tape on the side with the laminate and cut it on the back side, starting with going down the backsplash and then across the rest of the countertop, with people holding the one side of the countertop so that it wouldn't fall down and crack the laminate. And it all worked out pretty well. And then we put the corner pieces together using a miter bolt kit. That was a separate purchase, and that comes with glue that we used, and then these little bolts that you bolt into place using a 7/8 wrench. And then all four of us worked together to flip it over and place it where it needed to go on the counter. We tried to flip it quickly so that the glue was still wet and we had time to maneuver it and sit on it and hammer it down to make sure that it was as level as we could make it before we bolted it into place underneath the cabinets. So here is that antique sink that I was talking about earlier. You can see on the back here there's little divots in it that make it a little bit uneven, so we had to cut those divots into place in the cabinet so that it could sit into the cabinet a little bit and be flush. To do that, we tried our best to get a measurement of the back of the sink by putting a big piece of butcher paper on it and using a knife to cut out where these divots are, and then we used a jigsaw to cut those same divots into place in the correct spots. It was a bit of a trial and error. We had to make them a little bit bigger a couple of times, but it worked out in the end. I love my antique sink. It was a lot of trial and error to get it to work. There's not a whole lot of information on how to install these anymore, so we just kind of figured it out, which will be another separate video, so stay tuned for that. But I am very grateful for my in-laws for staying and helping me figure out how to get this sink in place. As you can see, after getting it in place and refinishing it, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Such a focal point for my kitchen that I am obsessed with. I also spent some time just cleaning all of the new cabinets. They came from a very nice home, but still wanted to make sure I had fresh, clean cabinets going into this. There were some child-proofing things that were stuck on, so I wanted to get those off and whatnot. Overall, it wasn't too bad of a job, and it turned out really nice. There were also some other odds and ends things to do after the cabinets were installed, especially since we changed the dimensions of some of the cabinets and had extra wood. We were able to add extra shelving, and my husband made more drawers where there were previously just face plates and fake drawers on hinges. There are still some more drawers to be done, but we ran out of extra materials. And the kitchen isn't totally done. We still need to do things like paint and pick out a floor. We still just have the subfloor. But I am absolutely loving having a kitchen that has a worktop and a sink that I can do dishes in. It's been absolutely lovely. You really learn to not take the little things for granted when you don't have a kitchen for a little while. And there you have it, a functioning kitchen. Thank you for joining us here at Home with the Hudsons for this kitchen renovation video. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more videos such as how I refinish this antique sink, cooking videos in the new kitchen, and so many more things that help make a house a home.